Hello guys, my name is Keyshawn, and in today's video we are going to learn to set up a domain within Active Directory, also set up a DHCP server and a DNS server within Active Directory. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. What we're going to do first is we're going to obviously got to download everything that we need to emulate a server and whatnot in our VirtualBox here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to Windows, let's go Enterprise ISO download, and then we're going to go to the Microsoft website here. And then it says, please select your Windows 10 Enterprise download. I already have it downloaded, so I'm not going to download it, but you would go ahead and select the 64-bit because your operating system, you would want the 64-bit operating system. Um, and then you would go ahead and download it to your desired folder. So I have it in the Windows Enterprise folder for me. Like I said, I already have it downloaded, so I'm not going to download it. All right, so now that you have that downloaded, we're going to have to download the Windows server so we can actually have a server for our server. So what we're going to do is go to Windows Server 2019 download. We're going to go scroll down to the Microsoft website. And then again, please select your Windows Server 2019 download. You'd most likely want the 64-bit ISO download. So we can go ahead and mount that in our VirtualBox Windows server. And then once you do that, like I said, I already have it downloaded, but you would just hit the 64-bit edition, save it to where you want to save it. So I have mine in my one of these folders. Oh, here we go, Windows Server. I have mine right here, so I'm not going to download it again, but once you download it, then we will come back. All right, so now that you have both of the ISOs downloaded, what you're going to do is go ahead and open up VirtualBox. I'm sure you can do this with VMware, but I just prefer VirtualBox. You're going to hit New, and then I'm just going to title this one Windows Server. And then for the version, we're going to go to Windows 2019 64-bit, then hit Next. I'm going to go ahead and allocate 4 gigabytes of memory. You don't have to. I just have the extra memory on my computer, so I just want it to run a little bit faster. And then I'm going to allocate at least 2 CPU cores. Obviously, the more cores, the more memory that you can allocate, the smoother it will run. But you really only need about 2 cores and probably about 2 gigabytes of memory for it to run. Uh, for it to run. And then next, I'm going to go ahead pre-allocate full size, and I'm just going to use about 50 gigabytes. That should be okay. And then finish. And then here it's just going to go ahead and create the server. So whenever it finishes, we'll come back. Alrighty, so our Windows server is finished. So before we even start, I'm going to go ahead and add the uh, other clients. So I'm just going to do user one, exclamation mark. Again, we're going to do Windows 2019 64-bit for the version. Next, again, I'm going to allocate 4 gigabytes and 2 CPU cores. Pre-allocate full size of 50 gigabytes, that should be okay. And then hit finish. And then I'm going to do this 2 times. You can do this as many times as you want, depending on how many clients you're going to create. I'm only going to create 2 for this project, but obviously in the real world, in the real simulation, you're probably going to be creating more than 2, probably, probably at least 5 or 10 at most. But the process, once you do 1 or once you do 2, the process is pretty much the same, unless if it's specifically said otherwise. So it's really simple. So I'm not gonna show the recording of me creating the second one, but it's gonna be pretty much the same thing that we just did. Alrighty, so both of our clients are created in our VirtualBox. So we're gonna start by starting our Windows server, and this will probably take a couple minutes, just for the first boot. And then here we're going to go to our directories and go to our Windows Server. Wherever you saved your Windows Server ISO, that's where you're going to navigate to. Mine is obviously Windows Server. We're going to click this. This is the ISO, and then we're going to hit open and then mount and retry boot. And we're just going to go ahead and let this run. It's pretty much if you ever set up a operating system, if you ever built your own computer, set up the operating system at the end. It's pretty much the same process. Hit next and then install. Then I can, it's a little bit scale mode bigger. All right, and then we're gonna do select Windows Server 2019 standard evaluation. And this pretty much gives us the full GUI, the full graphical user interface, and all the bells and whistles that we can use within the Windows server. I'm gonna hit next, and then you can accept the license terms, hit next. I'm gonna do custom install Windows only, and then hit the drive that we pre-allocated earlier. And then, yeah, we're setting up a new operating system. Alrighty, so now that we are in our Windows server, there's a couple things that you can do first, but what I'm going to do first is I'm actually going to set up a static IP for this server here. And in order to do that, we're going to go to my actual host IP because since we're using a bridged network, we're going to be using, like I said, we're going to be using the internet connection that's already on my computer. So in order to set up a static IP, I just got to check what the subnet mask is, and obviously mine is 255, 255, 255, 0. So that means, and my default gateway is 192, 168, 1.1. So that means about 253, 254 IP addresses are available within the 192, 168, 1.1 range. So going back to our server now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on the little computer down here, and then open network and internet settings. I'm going to go to Ethernet, change adapter options, right click this Ethernet here, hit properties, and then I'm going to find IP version 6 or Internet Protocol version 6. I'm going to uncheck that one, and then at IP version 4, I'm going to double click, left click, use the following IP address. So this is setting up a static IP address. And then I'm just going to select 192.168.1.100. Dot 100, that's a good starting range for the IP address because the DHCP range is, I'm not entirely sure what it is on my router, but for most routers, it's between like 1 through 50. So starting at 100 plus is a good range to assign like static IPs and whatnot. So again, this is going to be the subnet mask that autofills, and then the default gateway, like I said, is 192.168.1.1. And then we're going to be setting up a DNS server as well. This server here is going to be the DNS server. So I'm going to do, again, 192.168.1.1. And then OK. So that's going to be how you're going to be setting up a static IP address for your server. And then, like I said, you can do a lot of things first, but I'm just going to do this first because it just helps in the long run. All right, now that we set up our static IP address, we can actually set up the server itself. So what we're going to do is add roles and features. Page by default, this is just kind of the before you begin page telling you what you need to know. Hit next. We're going to do role-based or feature-based installation. Next. Next. Then here, we're going to select Active Directory Domain Services. Hit Add Features. We're going to do DHCP server, like I said. and then DNS server. Then you can hit next. Here you can hit next again, next one more time, next, next, and then hit install. And then this is just essentially installing all the features that we want for our server. All right, so now all the features are finished downloading. What we're going to do is hit promote this server to a domain controller. And then we're going to hit add a new forest. And then the forest, we can just, since it's a project, I'm just going to type testproject.com. All right, and then this, you do have to create a directory service restore mode password. So if anything were to happen with your domain, you do have a password to restore it. All right, and then we can just hit next through all these. And then here we just got to download the prerequisites for the domain controller. Once this loads, we're going to hit install and then allow everything to install.